Alright, what's up, people? Welcome back. So, let's talk about something that feels like it's straight out of a historical drama, but is actually happening right now, today. Polygamy. Specifically, polygamy in Asia. Now, when most people think about polygamy, their minds might jump to, like, a few specific places. Maybe some parts of Africa, where it has deep cultural and legal roots in many countries. Or maybe a reality TV show from Utah. But here's the thing. The story of polygamy in Asia is this incredibly complex, messy, and fascinating web of changing laws, cultural traditions that just won't quit, and a whole lot of legal gray areas. It's a continent where, on paper, almost every country has said, "Nah, we're good on that." But in reality, the practice is still kicking in the shadows. It's this wild disconnect between what the law says and what people actually do. You have governments passing these sweeping legal reforms, trying to modernize and standardize marriage, but then you have communities holding on to traditions that are centuries old. It's a classic case of the law is the law, but tradition is also the law. It creates this situation where you have de facto polygamy, religious ceremonies that aren't legally recognized, and a whole lot of people living in these complex family structures that the state just pretends don't exist. It's a huge, sprawling continent, and the approach to this one issue varies so drastically from one border to the next. So, for the next few minutes, we're going on a rapid-fire tour of Asia. We're going to break down the legal status of polygamy, country by country. We'll look at where it's been criminalized, where it's just not recognized, and where it's still practiced, despite everything. Think of it like a legal speed run, but with more spouses. We're going to dive into the specifics, from China to Turkey to the remote villages of Nepal, to understand how this ancient practice is surviving in the modern world. Let's get into it. In Nepal, the law says no, but some communities quietly continue the practice anyway. China's 2020 Civil Code made it crystal clear. One spouse per person. End of story. The Marriage Act of 1971 ended it, but old customary unions get a legal nod. So banned since 1959 and criminalized since 1977, but some Negev Bedouins still practice polygamy. In Japan, it's a hard no. Polygamy is neither legally recognized nor a part of society. The state won't recognize polygamous marriages, but they decriminalized the practice back in 1998. So, it's actually pretty simple and straightforward in Kyrgyzstan. Polygamous marriages have absolutely no legal standing or recognition. Over in Mongolia, the legal system just doesn't have a category for polygamous marriage. In Myanmar, if you're looking for legal recognition for a polygamous union, you're really out of luck. North Korea's official stance is a firm no. Polygamy is not legally recognized by the state. Much like its northern neighbor on this issue, South Korea does not legally recognize polygamy. Taiwan's 1930 civil law put the kibosh on polygamy, making it explicitly illegal. In Tajikistan, the law is clear. The state does not recognize polygamous marriages at all. Turkey criminalized it in 1926, and you could face up to 5 years in prison. Another one for the not recognized list. Turkmenistan's legal framework doesn't support polygamous unions. In Uzbekistan, religious leaders who perform polygamous rites can actually be fined, and even just spreading information or propaganda about polygamy is punishable as well. In Vietnam, when it comes to marriage, the law only recognizes a union between two people. Cambodia's legal stance is firm. Polygamous marriages are simply not recognized by the state. So just like its neighbors, Laos does not offer any legal recognition for polygamous marriages. Russia won't recognize polygamous marriage, but bigamy or de facto polygamy aren't crimes. Despite historical context, modern Thailand does not legally recognize polygamy in any form. And finally, in Timor-Leste the law is clear. No legal standing for polygamous unions. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour across the legal landscape of polygamy in Asia. And the big takeaway is this: the law and the reality are two totally different things. On one hand, you have this nearly continent-wide legal consensus. From the strict criminalization in Turkey to the simple non-recognition in Thailand, almost every government has put up a legal stop sign. The official paperwork, the tax forms, the legal statutes, they all say marriage is one-to-one. It's a unified front of modern legal reform pushing against an ancient practice. But then there's the other side. The side that doesn't show up in the law books. In the mountains of Nepal, among Bedouin communities in Israel, and in pockets across the map, the practice persists. It continues through cultural tradition, religious interpretation, or sometimes just social habit. You can make something illegal, but you can't just erase a cultural practice overnight, especially when it's been around for centuries. This is the ultimate showdown: state law versus social norms. And in many places, the social norms are putting up a serious fight, operating in the shadows, completely off the government's grid. This whole situation is a masterclass in the limits of law. It shows that you can change a policy, but changing hearts and minds, and deeply ingrained traditions, is a whole different ballgame. The story of polygamy in Asia isn't just about marriage. It's about the tension between the modern state and traditional society. So, I want to know what you think. What part of this legal maze surprised you the most? Was it a country where it's still practiced? A country where it's a serious crime? Drop a comment below. I want to hear your take. Thanks for watching.